Hello there. This full moon for November 2023 is going to be extremely eventful. You need to beware because something is secretive is coming down the pike, and I think it involves our government and our allies as well as finances. So I will be showing you what this all means, how the planets are playing out for the November 2023 full moon. Now, people may lie, but the astrology, the planets do not. So be very aware, and let's see what's going on behind the scenes. The full moon for November of 2023 is on the 27th. And as you can see here, we have an ascendant that is Libra. The interesting thing, though, is that Ketu is on the ascendant. And when Ketu is on the ascendant, that makes the people feel like they are invisible. And the other thing that's very interesting about that is that Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is a depositor going to the 12th house. The 12th house is things that are hidden. It's prisons, it's retreats, it's hospitals. So you kind of go behind the scenes. It's things that are happening behind the scenes. And if you're running the dasha or the planetary period of a 12th house planet, you are not feeling like going out there and putting yourself forward. You want to hide and retreat and disappear. And that is what the American people are feeling like. We are feeling like we are unsupported from our government and the people we have put in office. It's almost like we are invisible and everybody else is more visible. Now, when you're looking at the full moon, obviously you need to look at where the moon is placed because that's the most important part of the chart. And the moon here is placed in the 8th house, Taurus, where it is exalted. Now, normally we would be saying that an exalted full moon is very auspicious, except for the fact that it is in the 8th house. And it being exalted in the 8th house means it's going to bring about 8th house issues. So that would be scandals, deceit, things going on behind the scenes. It can be treacherous. It can be other people's money and things that are happening underground. The other interesting thing is that Venus also rules the 8th house, Taurus. So we have the ascendant and the 8th house being ruled by Venus, depositing here to Virgo, where it is debilitated. So the 8th and the 12th means that there can be scandals going on with foreign, because the 12th house is foreign entities or foreign countries, foreign people. And there's scandals going on with that. That is what we are looking at with this full moon. The other interesting thing too is that for the full moon, we are running the moon dasha, which means that moon, that planet, the moon, is the most important planet in the chart. It's in the 8th house. The interesting thing is too that it is ruler of the 10th, which is our government, going to the 8th. There's something going on with our government involving scandals. And I also not only think scandals, but I think having to do with health issues. And the 12th house is also endings. So something is going on with our government. Our government is not healthy, involving possibly mental illness or mental health is not totally there. So with it being the 8th going to the 12th, that also can mean endings. Endings, something's going on with involving endings in our government that's being covered up. By what? By the media, by the press, because Mercury rules Virgo, and it also rules, which is the 12th house, and ruling the 9th house, going to the 3rd house. But as you can see here, the 3rd house is communications. Mercury is in Mula, the nakshatra Mula. Mula is, when we look at mundane astrology, is a nakshatra that's involved when we usually have planetary disasters. or should I say, not necessarily planetary disasters, but when we have disasters happening around the world, like for instance, 9/11, COVID, MOBID was very instrumental in those instances. This is why back in September, I didn't get too terribly involved or worried about what was going on. I knew that it was going to be a great awakening that was going to be happening, but I thought that was going to be more at the masses, and it was. People started realizing what the policies of the government, the impacts that they were having on our citizens. The Nakshatra Mula was not involved. However, with this full moon, we are seeing the Nakshatra Mula being involved, involving the 9th house, which is foreigners. It's also justice, our laws, and the 12th house, which is loss. So some of the media are trying to cover up what's really going on with our government, but don't be fooled, because there is definitely something going on with our government that is trying to be covered up. Like I said, people can lie and cover things up, but the planets tell the truth. So let's see what it could possibly be. So we have two very interesting phenomena happening with this full moon, and that's yods, which are called the fingers of God. And we have two of those going on. One of them involves the 12th house with Venus, the second house of money with Mars and the sun being here, and the 7th house of our allies, our business partners, foreign people, foreign countries. And then the second yod involves the 5th house and the 7th house and the 12th house. So the very interesting thing is, if you look at these yods, you will see the 12th and the 7th is involved in both of the yods, which brings those houses into full recognition. They are saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at them. The 7th house, like I said, is our business partners, our allies. The 12th house, like I said, is foreign entities, but it is also things that are hidden and scandals and its endings. And the 5th and the 2nd, the 5th house is our politics. It's also the children. The 2nd house is money. And this is the thing, is that this is what's being, the 2nd and the 5th, involved in these yods, which means there's cover-ups involving money giving to foreign entities or foreign countries that we are being told are our allies. However, they aren't our allies. We are giving money to the wrong people, not the people who really are our allies. And that's going to be a problem in the future. It also can be that there are cover-ups involving money having to do with government officials, that money coming from foreign entities that are not our allies, but we are being told they are our allies. So be very much aware of this, that what you're being told is not always the absolute truth. The other thing is that Mars and Sun here in the 2nd house, you have got Mars combust the Sun. The Sun is the ruler of the 11th house, and we usually say that the Sun also represents our leaders. The 11th house is the masses. So the masses are getting kind of suspicious about what's going on with our government officials involving money, the 2nd house. But since Mars is the ruler of the 7th house, the allies, and also the 2nd house. So that's money involving the allies. But we are starting to wake up to this. And we're not very happy about what's going on. There is, Mars is combust the Sun, so the energy for people to come out and just really scream and holler about it is not there, but that's going to change because Mars is not always going to be combust. But what's happening is this anger is boiling beneath the surface. They're trying to shut us up, the people who speak out about it, to tell the truth. And that Anger is boiling beneath the surface. And you know what happens when you try to suppress anger. It doesn't work. It'll eventually erupt at some point in time in maybe a not so constructive manner. So be very aware of that. But people are starting to speak out and starting to tell the truth. And there is a movement behind that. And that is the way that you bring about change, is when you start to speak out, speak your truth, speak what you know is true. You can then invoke change. Say no to the things that you don't agree with. It's not the time to be burying your head in the sand anymore and just let things go by the way. It's not the time for that. We need to get our voice back and speak out. And that's what's going on with this full moon. I think that the people are going to start speaking out more and more, because why? This anger that's beneath the surface, it's bubbling. They're not real happy about all of this. The other thing is the seventh house is pretty packed. It's got Rahu there, and Rahu is Gandanta. We are not really sure, because Rahu, when it's Gandanta, means you have the feeling like you are drowning, or you're not very clear, or you're overwhelmed with things. So we have not been very clear about who and who is not our allies. Now, we realize that our government's making alliances with countries that in the past have been our enemies, and we're being told that they are now our allies. We're not really falling for that. What is really going on behind the scenes there? And I think the planets point out what's going on behind the scenes. They don't lie. The other thing is that Saturn is no longer retrograde, and he is now in Satyrbishik again. Satyrbishik is all about mental illness and addictions. So we're looking at the mental illness standpoint, not only from Moon being in the 8th house, but also from Saturn being in Satyrbishik, which Saturn tells the truth, and it's karma coming dues. It's in the 5th house of politics. Saturn is a karaka for government when we're looking at mundane astrology. So we're starting to see the truth about what's going on. Saturn brings up the truth. You can run, but you cannot hide from him. He will do that, and that's what's going on. The other thing I forgot to mention about the 7th house too, though, is that this Rahu and Jupiter's retrograde, so he's bringing out the truth about the allies. You're starting to see the truth come out about that. When the planets go retrograde, they bring things to the surface that are hidden or from the past that we have not examined. And they're bringing them forward so that we can examine those issues. So you've got Rahu, Jupiter, which expands things, but Rahu brings an element of deceit and things that aren't really trustworthy or true. He can bring expansion, but always with a price. There's always a price to be paid when Rahu is involved. And that's what's been going on with Jupiter and Rahu together for the past few, actually it's been quite a while, because Jupiter's not going to move out of there until April, and he moved in last April. So since last April, we've been looking at this. These elements have been brewing beneath the surface, and we are starting to get an idea about it, right? Then the other thing is that they both are there with Uranus, which is the great awakener. So we are beginning to waken up to, as Rahu makes his last transit back into Pisces, to what's really going on. Are these people really our allies? And we are concerned. We are very concerned with what? Well, with foreigners. Being Venus being in the 12th house of foreigners, and then also the 9th house of foreigners, going to the 3rd house of communications. We're starting to look at that. Who really are our allies? Who really are our friends? And that's all involved in these yods. So you have Saturn aspecting the 7th house, the 5th aspecting the 7th house, Saturn by its 3rd aspect, and within a yod with Venus. And then again, we have Saturn here aspecting this 2nd house, where Mars is combust the sun. Saturn Mars is a very frustrating aspect because Saturn wants to constrict and bring in responsibilities and wants things to happen down the road. Mars wants everything to happen right now because he's a little yippy little dog yapping at the big elephant, which is Saturn. And what happens is Saturn finally gets sick and tired of the yappy dog yapping at him, and so he steps on him and squashes him. That's the energy of the Saturn Mars. But with that frustration, it makes you keep trying and trying and trying. And so why? So that you can overcome what you're being frustrated about and you become successful. The other thing is that Saturn's sun is also another rather trying aspect. And that would mean that the government is actually doesn't have its full power to move forward because Saturn is putting out the light of the sun. When you see this in a natal chart, just to give you an example, the person usually has some issue with their self-esteem. They don't feel like the bright and shining star that they really are. And Sun's a karaka for our government. So we're not seeing our government being the shining example that it has been in the past with our foreign nations, with our allies, and even our enemies. Its light is being diminished, and this is what's happening through this full moon. And then again, of course, we have Neptune aspecting Venus, but it's not a very strong aspect. It's a very wide orb. So that would mean we don't really see what's happening completely. And with Venus being debilitated, that causes issues there. So the other thing is that this Mars is aspecting this, this placement here, Saturn. So we have Saturn aspecting Mars and Mars aspecting Saturn. So that can cause even more of this issue of frustration and irritation that the American people are feeling, the citizens are feeling, being with Sun ruler of the 11th. There's a lot. There is a lot going on with this full moon for November. And I think everybody can feel it because everybody I talk to feels like something is up, something is going on, and they can't quite put their finger on it. But this is what's up. This is what's going on. This is the beginning, I think, of endings happening in our government. There is going to be a major shift. Something is happening with our government. And we're really not being told exactly what it is. But you know what? We're not stupid. We're going to find out what it is. People are starting to speak out. So be aware. Keep your feelers up for what's happening and trust your gut because your gut is always right, more often than not. So listen to your inner guidance, your intuition. Speak out about things that you don't feel are just or right, and say no. It's time to speak up and speak out and speak your truth. So there you have it. Be sure to subscribe to my channels and click all notifications so that you don't miss any of my videos, and make a comment because I do enjoy seeing your comments and I do respond to them. And check me out at my website, www.michellebond007.com. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free newsletter so that you will get all of the monthly predictions for your sign in your email box, as well as find out about getting the predictions for next year. Next year is going to be a very impactful year with the elections, I tell you. And I have done my predictions for next year already. It's candid, it's uncensored, and you will learn a lot and be prepared for how to deal with next year. So you want to do that. And, book an appointment. because, you know, everybody has been dealt a deck of cards at the time of their birth, or shall we say a roadmap, however you want to look at it. Deck of cards, a roadmap. And what I do is I can help you navigate that road, the journey that you're on, your life's journey, or see the deck of cards that you've been given, so that you can navigate them to become very successful, to live the life that you are meant to live and that you want to live, that you desire to live. The other thing we have going on that I'm very excited about is our Monday evening group meditations that are done on Zoom. This will help bring a sense of peace and calm and security to you through all of this chaos that's going on. It's a way to check out. So give yourself a treat and join our group on Mondays, 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. I do record them on Zoom, so if you do miss one of the sessions, you can go back and listen to it at any time. And it is a guided meditation that's meant to inspire you. So if you can't meditate, you don't need to worry about that, because I will guide you through it. So be courageous, be empowered, and I will see you next time.